All right, back again today. Let me get some notifications out and we will get underway. Okay, so plan for today is pretty straightforward. Yesterday I was playing, or in the stream yesterday, I was testing out resolutions to figure out what was going to work and what wasn't in terms of what can you actually even see in a game with this low of a resolution. Now the plan is this game has a lot of mini games that you need to complete to unlock a series of doors to escape. And in the prototype I did, those mini games are all actually UI elements that you have to go navigate through, which worked for the prototype, and the benefit of that was it was a lot faster to code. Let me bring that up. Yeah, so this is one of them here. With this one, I had this little pop-up container and a framework for adding content to it and synchronizing it over the network, which it worked great for the prototype, but there's a lot of problems with it. I don't want it to be a UI because for gameplay reasons, there's obviously enemies running up behind you trying to hit you. And if you have to keep exiting out of the menu to turn around and hit them before they get you, it kind of just hurts the gameplay when it feels like the minigame is obstructing you. And since this game is kind of loosely based, at least on the concept of the Omega Journey map from Halo 3, where you're trying to dig through a tunnel, that obviously didn't have pop-up displays and mini games. It was one set of people digging, and you might need to turn around fast. And I don't want to lose that element of that game. A lot of other things are different, but I want to keep that you're always in the environment. I don't want to ever make it feel like you've been separated from what's happening around you. So I think it's diegetic or whatever is the term for this. I don't know, it might not be completely right, but this screen, for example, I want this in-game on a display. The problem is this screenshot was taken from the game with 224 vertical resolution. To support 16:9 properly, the actual game is going to use 320 by 180, which is even narrower. And this was not being rendered in 3D. This was the UI. And it looks great, but it's taking up almost the whole screen. And when you're rendering it in game, it's not going to be that big. So what I've got to figure out is how can I fit this in the game? So we're not going to be doing any coding of the mini games, but I've got a list of like 30 mini games that I kind of want to roughly place and block out and figure out, are they even going to be feasible? Is there a way to make them visible in the world that conceivably could work? And that way I can actually start doing the art later. If for some reason I can't get it to work, I might just have to raise the vertical resolution and start to stray away from the PSX look a little bit. But hopefully that's not going to be too much of the case. So I took some time and I've already moved some of the some of the player code from the POC over into this new Godot project that's just going to be for testing that. But before I get too far into that, I need some data from the old POC. So we will grab that. And what I'm looking for is kind of the extent of what the mini games could be. I did some balancing in this POC to see what was going to be fun. So I want to look at what I had for the 3 mini games that were in there. Let's see, we'll start with the text mini game because that's probably the simplest one. Yeah, that does not render right in the editor. What did I have? Oh, it actually, okay, I actually used a curve for that. So it looks like 20 characters. It was 4 to 20 characters is how difficult the game could be. Okay, so what I want to do is actually open the game, and whether or not this is going to work. We'll see now. Okay, OBS isn't capturing it again. OBS does not like Godot very much at all. Let me see if I can fix that. There we go. I don't know why, but OBS, it can capture the game when it's embedded, but you have to like restart the capture in OBS after you launch the game to make it work properly. It's really strange. It's good timing on the music. Okay, so I've got some debug options up. Perfect. I got some debug controls here that I can use to change the difficulty. So I will just max out. Okay, I guess that's the max. All right, so I am going to grab a screenshot of this. And I think that's all I really need. We'll go back to the project list again and screw up the Godot capture. Although, you know what? Actually, I should... It occurs to me, I think I have int fractional scaling on. So that may not have captured entirely correctly. Let me just check that first. But then what we'll do is go over into Sprite and just grab... I don't want to recode the minigame in this other project, and I don't really want to mix it into the POC project in case I want to push some updates to it. So let me see. Do I have... Okay, it is on integer scaling. All right, that's good. Then that should be fine then. All right, I'll leave Godot up, and what I'm going to do is hop over here into Sprite, and we'll see if we can grab a screenshot of one of these texts and just see what it looks like. Copy that. Oh, and it would help if I switch this over to Sprite. Gotta figure out a better way to switch that. Okay. So first things first, did it actually bring it over at a reasonable scale? Okay, it looks like it's scaled by 8. Oh no, no, it's not. 4? Okay, alright. So let me grab just this. And cut that and bring it over into a new one. And this is not going to work at the current size, so we'll bring it back down to its actual size. Let me just double check. Is this actually 4x4? Yeah, okay, it actually is 4x4. All right. So we'll do 25% scale. Make sure this still looks... Yeah, okay, that still looks right. All right. So now I'm going to save that into the art study. And okay. So now let's hop back over into Godot and I can go back to the art study project. All right. So there's a couple things I need. You know what? Actually, that may have been too early. It occurs to me I need to know the size of the door. So let me go back to the browser real quick. So in the game, I don't think, well, I guess there's a good picture here. So this door is a huge part of the game. It's the thing you're going to be interacting with for the majority of it. The game is somewhat asynchronous, where you're meant to have one group of players watching your back, shooting anything that comes down the hallway, while another set of players is trying to hack the door, or really to prove they're human to the door so they can get through. and you've got limited ammo, so you have to defend them and they have to work fast, or you're just going to run out of ammo and end up losing anyways. So the door is really important for a couple reasons. One, just because of the big point on gameplay, but two, because I want the mini games to be part of the game. The way I envision it is that the door has panels on it that are going to open up and reveal different mini game components, like a keyboard or a monitor. And like in the demo, for instance, I've got a cooking mini game. So one of the things I want to have happen is the door is going to like open halfway to where you can't walk through it, but suddenly you're going to be looking out into like a city street, for example, with people coming up to you ordering food. So it's kind of playing into some of the more absurd aspects of the game, where reality is getting warped and bent in strange ways that you're not really sure why. And the doors are a big part of that, that when they open, they don't always open into the hallway, they sometimes open to somewhere else. So before I can even design the door and figure out what it's going to look like, I need to know how many panels am I going to need, where do they need to be placed so that players can interact with them and view them. There's a whole lot of things that just go into this door. I can't just sketch something out and say, okay, cool, it's a sci-fi door, let's roll with it. I need to think practically, which is a big part of what today is. Unfortunately, I don't know what the size of the door is. So, all right, back to the other project. I need to measure out some things in that project, because I was actually pretty happy with the POC, how wide the hallway was and how large the door was. It felt good. You could kind of sidestep some enemies, but it also felt claustrophobic, which is what I wanted. So let me, okay, good. I already have this open. So as soon as that's done loading, I can come over here. Okay, so for the tunnel segment, I'm pretty sure those are all 1 meter by 1 meter, but just for the sake of being thorough, let's just do a quick test here. So I believe, let's see, do the X, what is that, like 3, I guess? Yeah, okay. So yeah, the interior is about 3. And how tall is it? Is it also 3? Not quite. It's shorter than that. It's not 2, is it? No way. Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, but that's okay, but that's not going all the way up to the ceiling. All right. Let's try 2.5. I'm pretty sure there's a way to get the ABB off this thing, but it's probably not going to be accurate because of the collision meshes that are hanging around on it. Okay, so that's a little bit too short at the bottom. Not quite right at the top either. Maybe like 2.7. And this doesn't have to be exact, but I did like, and I guess I should also say all of the assets that are in the proof of concept are placeholder. They're all just things that I've bought from various asset packs or were Creative Commons. These tunnels are from Pizza Doggy set. I think same thing with the door. Okay, it's 2.7. So we're looking at 2.7 by 3 for the hallway. I'm going to just note that down. So 2.7 H by 3 wide. Okay, so now I need, well, I guess the door is the same size, so it's not, yeah, okay. I don't need the door. All right. I think this time, is that everything I need? Let me double check what the height of the player is actually. So where is the camera offset? 1.45. Okay. All right. I think I'm good that time. Yeah. Don't save. And go back to the art study. Yeah, see, what I was getting at is that the door is kind of essential to the whole design of the game, because if I don't know what the door physically needs to look like to make the game playable, then I also don't know what the hallway is going to have to look like to make it playable. I do kind of like the rounded hallway. There's something about it that's just kind of eerie and off-putting compared to like a a more sci-fi square hallway like you'd see in Dead Space. Something about it just seems disconcerting, like you're in like a drainage pipe or something. I like that element to it, so I think I am going to keep that and have the door stay more or less round. Okay, so let me do a new scene for the door, and we'll just start blocking it out very roughly here. And I think I'll just do this using CSGs for the moment. I don't want to spend any time modeling things until I'm sure that, well, at least more or less sure of what I need it to look like. So I guess what I'd want is a height of, what, 2.7 and a radius of 3. Or, well, no, that's not going to work. Okay, I guess I just have to say 3. Or no, 1.5. And we'll just make the height like 0.1 for the moment. Well, 0.3. Okay. That's a lot bigger than I thought it would be. All right. Let's see where, okay, there it is. Let's add, okay, 12, that seems about right. Yeah. I'm not going to worry too much about polygon count at the moment. All right, so I'm going to bring that over into here. Actually, I'm going to go back to this and I'm going to make this an odd number just so that the bottom... Oh, I thought that would work. Oh, you know what? Actually, that's probably better. We'll do that. Okay. So the other thing that's missing in the POC is that, and another big part of the minigame, is that there is supposed to be a track along the ceiling for a... I'm not really sure what I would call it, but a thing called the Gatekeeper that's meant to be this creepy mannequin robot thing that follows you around through the game. It doesn't ever really say anything or do anything, at least nothing I'm going to reveal, but it's meant to be... One of the things is there needs to be a hatch at the top of the door for it to move through. So I need to design that in as well, in addition to the mini games. Whoever joined, I am just going through at the moment and trying to place out and prototype some mini games for my shooter. So this is just a blank project where I'm trying to figure out where they're going to physically fit because the game runs at such a low resolution. I don't know if you've seen it, but I'll quickly switch back to the proof of concept project so you've got an idea of what I'm trying to fit into this one. And let me guess, OBS is probably going to be mad about the rendering again. Yeah, okay, let me fix that again real quick. There we go. All right. So everything in here is a proof of or as a placeholder asset. So this door is currently what I'm trying to figure out because these mini games that pop up when you interact with it are actually supposed to be physically part of the door. They're supposed to be panels on it. For the proof of concept, I just have them in the UI because it was easier to code it that way. But the problem is you can see, because the game runs in such low resolution, you can't even read what that screen says. So I'm in a new project trying to prototype out physically what size screens can I put on the door to make them visible in game. So, and actually the prototype is, this is running with at a higher resolution than what the new final game is going to be running with. So that's what we're trying to fit. We'll quit that and go back to the proof of concept project. Okay. So let me see here. Is the door clipping into the ground? It probably is. Bring that up some. All right. That, I don't know. I guess that actually is the same size. I'm just zoomed really far in. Okay, let's add another CSG. And not SSG. We'll do another cylinder. And for the moment, since I think I want to keep the tube look of it, we'll do a radius again of, I guess, 3. Yeah, I guess that would have to be 3. Okay, so then I'm gonna need a flat ceiling. We'll do that. And we'll bring this out just big enough for testing. Oh wait, no, that needs to be 1.5, not 3. And so in the test, the height was 2.7. So this needs to be 0.3 into the ground. Okay, so it's 1.5. We'll do, that brings it all the way up, and then we'll do that. That doesn't seem right, but we'll roll with it for now. Okay. So now I'm going to need a CSG combiner. And we will do a subtraction. I suppose actually this probably needs to be a little bit bigger. So we'll have this one be the interior. And this will be the exterior. And I'll do that as like 2, I guess. Bring those in. And the interior one, I'm going to make slightly longer. Okay, I think I need to reorder those. Or not. That's kind of throwing me. Yeah, set to subtraction. Union, intersection. That's interesting. I've used these before in this work without any issue. That's kind of strange. Is there something here? Oh, you know what? Actually, maybe this. I think I know what I'm doing wrong. You have to do it on the shape. So I want this one to be a subtract. Yeah, okay, that's what it was. Wait, no, that didn't. Really? Huh. How did I do this before? Well, that's interesting. I have done this before in Spectarier, and this worked. Or is it? No, it's actually just still there. Maybe this needs to be a child of that one. Okay, I think that was it. Huh. All right. Well, did not know that, but all right. And looks like I need to add in a light. So we will do a directional light. Okay, so that should work, and let's bring that down a bit. And I think I was using kind of a pale green or a dark green. All right, let's make sure. Yeah, that's what I thought. OBS isn't capturing it again. There we go. Okay. All right, well, that's something to start with at least. And of course, collisions are disabled. All right, so on this, I need to enable collision real quick. Bring that directional light up there. And I will, I guess, just add that together. We'll just call that fine. Okay, well, the door doesn't fit, which is a little bit odd, but whatever. Let me open up my material browser and let me find a good concrete texture or something I can apply to this, just so that it's a little bit easier to tell what I'm looking at. Let's see. And all of the, I'm just going to use another placeholder texture. Again, I'm not going to start making textures for this until I'm kind of done with this step. You know what? That's probably a bad idea to use that one. I will use one of these textures. Again, I think this is a pizza doggy texture. So I'll just use that. All right. So now I should be able to come over to here and we'll just, well, you know what? I'm going to make a new material. So we'll come over here to the resources. I have a feeling I'm going to need to reuse this again. Okay, perfect. Go grab that. Not going to worry about the other settings at the moment. So we'll just come back here. Huh. I assumed that would just apply to all of them since they're union together, but all right. We'll just do this manually then. Oh, and actually there is one more thing I need to, yeah, probably one more thing I need to do. I think I need to make this triplanar. The hack that makes everything look better. Yeah, that instantly looks a lot better. Okay, so that's good enough for a start. Now let me grab a different material for metal. Let's see, we got some rusted metal. I'll grab this here. You probably can't see what I'm doing. Unfortunately, the way OBS is, I don't have it capturing the desktop at the moment, so you can't see it, but it's just a browser full of textures. Okay, so we'll make a new resource here. We'll do another standard material. We'll just call this metal or door material. Grab that, and again, make it triplanar. And come over here to the door. Yeah, that works. Doesn't look great, but it does work. Okay, so why is that not fitting when these are... So the door is 1.5, which is, yeah, that's right. So then the cylinder here, the inner one, is also 1.5. Okay, so I think this is just not lined up, might be the issue. Yeah, there we go. All right. And we'll just do a quick double test. Make sure everything is rendering correctly. Okay, good. It's still capturing. Yeah. Okay, that's good enough for now. I still got collisions disabled, but whatever. Let me fix that real quick. All right. So with that out of the way, so let me turn off the lighting. Oh, no, apparently not. Where is... okay. That's just... oh, I need to look at it from this side. All right. So now I should be good to start prototyping these out. So I'm going to make a new scene for each one of these little minigame prototypes. And we'll just call this one text minigame. And we'll do another CSG. And I'm going to need a new material. And we'll just call this, I don't know, text minigame material. The other part of this is I do want to actually style the terminals. It's not just going to be obviously a blank texture in the middle of the game, so I need to figure out how that's going to work. Okay, so if I just load this in, yeah, no, that doesn't do what I want at all. Okay. Then I think okay, here's what I'm going to do. I am going to unset that, ditch the material, and we'll just do this as a sprite. And I will just put it on top of whatever else is in the level. And that is the right way around. It looks like my texture filtering is also wrong. So let me go over to the where is the... oh, actually that might be the editor doing that. I always forget that the editor in Godot tends to default to rendering like that, or rendering with I guess that's linear. I think it's linear. Okay. So we'll go over here to scenes. Let's make a new folder for minigames and a new folder. I like to keep everything in specific folders, just so that I'm not tempted to accidentally reference a file that was intended for something else in a different project or a different part of the game, and then you change something and break something else on accident. Okay, so I'm going to assume that all of the mini games are going to have 0, 0 at the surface of the door. So then I need this block. I'll just bring that in, bring that in. Now, one thing I found yesterday is that the game does tend to look, or it's easier to read the text if it's at an angle facing you. So if you're looking head on and the text is actually slightly above you, it will look blurry. Whereas if the text is angled and it's slightly above you, then it's a lot easier to read. So having it be, I guess, perpendicular to the, what would you, well, yeah, I guess perpendicular. Having it face the camera helps. Okay, so let me bring this over just so I can start to get some reference here. And I'm also going to add another node. And we'll just instantiate that. Okay, well, right away there's a problem. Why is it facing backwards? Ah, because it's backwards in here. That would do it. All right, well, already I can tell this is going to be way too big because that is like the entire size of the door. And that is going to be negative 0.1. 1. Hold on, how big is the cylinder? Oh, 0.3, so that needs to be 1.5. Okay, there we go. Yeah, that's okay. I hope it doesn't need to be that big, because that's gonna make this very difficult. All right, let's take a look in game. And it's backwards. Okay, I'm back around here. Yeah, that would be a little bit of a problem for the gameplay. Oop, it's not snapping. Oh, why are you not snapping? What is going on here? There we go. Yeah, okay, that's already introducing some problems. All right, did I enable collisions first off? Okay, yes I did. Okay, so the other thing I did learn is that this text does need to be more or less at eye height too. So over here, I am going to bring this up. Let's see, how big is this? So this is, I guess I want this at whatever 1.4 is, but the radius is 1.5. But it isn't like, okay, so it's 1.2 up. So I need to move that up another 0.25 to get it at the camera height. Let me see, is that right? Yes, okay. That is not... Oh, you know what? I know what it is. Sprites have their own texture filtering mode. They're different. There we go. Okay, that looks better. Oh, that helped immensely. Okay. Well, that looks... What the heck is going on there? Is it like that in the screenshot? What? Yeah, see, that's okay. Let me count. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Well, there's only 20, so that's a problem. Yeah, this is exactly what I was worried about. If you get at just the right, yeah, if you get at that distance, it looks exactly the same way it was in the prototype, because it basically is the prototype at that point. But the funny thing is, actually with this one, the closer you get, the harder it is to read it. So I guess the good news is I can make it smaller. This kind of gets into another issue. I got some feedback before I made the game public that this challenge was just too difficult. And I don't disagree. It's got a lot of problems too. It randomly generates text, which means that you can end up with like a lowercase I and a lowercase j and a 1 and an L all together. Or I should say an uppercase I, a lowercase j, you know, a lot of characters that look the same. You can end up with 2 V's next to each other. It looks like a W. The S and the 5 look similar in this font. There's just a lot of issues with the readability of this, and I've played it enough times that I can read it without any trouble, but a lot of people have difficulty reading it, and that's not their fault. It is difficult unless you study the thing meticulously. The other trick, aside from it generating, you know, letters in uppercase and lowercase that can look really similar, the other issue is that because it is just randomly generating text, I've had a couple times now where it just picked a combination of letters that spelled something, and it has me concerned that it could accidentally spell something offensive. So I actually have this running, the minigame in the prototype is running through a profanity filter to make sure that it doesn't accidentally write something it shouldn't, but a profanity filter is not 100% guaranteed. So I don't really want to rely on that for the full game. And then the other issue too is if I go back to the actual screenshot here, you can see just how many keys I had to put on the keyboard to even make the minigame work, which I kind of want to do because I do want it to support. I'll just say there's an Easter eggs or some Easter eggs I want to put in, and maybe even some gameplay not related to Easter eggs, where typing in things that are not what you're being asked to type may have an effect. And I can't do that if I don't have a full keyboard. But this is where I'm kind of facing the design challenge of, I like the game is supposed to be funny, right? There's supposed to be just absurd challenges to prove you're human. And I think I need a mini game like this where you have to type in the text. But there's a lot of issues with that. And I'm struggling with the design of, do I ditch the mini game or change it to the point where it's not the same thing? Or is there a way I can make it more playable? And what I've been thinking is I could potentially pre-generate strings of text that I know are fair. So for one, I can find a better font that makes the S and the 5 look better. But I can potentially try and pre-generate strings, like a couple hundred that I've checked that they don't contain anything they shouldn't, and that they don't have like 2 V's doubled up. And I could also try to put in a bunch of rules about how it generates it, but that wouldn't solve the profanity issue. So I think that's the route I'm going to take. But this is the other challenge for what we're doing today, is I need to figure out how to fit this keyboard on the screen as well. It's not just the text. So all right, so for the text, let me try reducing the pixel size by half. So make this way smaller, and let me also bring it closer to the door, or to this. All right, and let's see, that broke OBS again. And that is really annoying that it keeps doing that. I don't know why it's doing that. Okay. That actually seems all right. Again, let me count it out. So, oh yeah, see, here's the problem though. When you turn your head, yeah. Yeah, the moment you turn your head, it becomes really hard to read. So I don't know, this is the problem. I think I checked yesterday and I found that anti-aliasing the text, or not anti-aliasing, adding an outline is bad. That actually makes it way harder to read. Setting the text, if you're using a label 3D, to use linear bitmap is bad. It makes it a lot harder to read. So nearest is the clearest the text can get, but the problem is at the extremes, when it's close to you, it gets so stretched and warped that it becomes difficult to read it. I guess I could do... So one of the things I did bring up is that the door... I like the idea of the door potentially opening for some of the mini games. So like I want to do one that's a shooting range where the door, the top part will open and there'll be a bunch of targets and you'll have to shoot the targets to open the door, and then it'll close and reopen, and then you're in the next part of the hallway. So I think I could potentially have the door open and put this further back, so that you're not so close to it. So that's, I think, an interesting idea. Like that could work, but I don't, you know what, before I go down that rabbit hole, let me see about getting the keys in. So I'm gonna say that this is the monitor. So I will bring that down, and this will be, I don't know, 1.5. Oh, nope. 1.5. I don't know, 0.2. Yeah, okay, 0.2. And I am just going to make this I think a solid black. We'll just do an inline material here. Oh, that's funny. What is it blue? Oh, that's just the selection. Okay. So we'll do that. And this is the monitor then. So actually, let me recenter this. 0 and 0. Well, actually, I guess I shouldn't have centered that one. All right. So then that's the screen. All right, now let me grab another. Let's do a label 3D. And we will, I guess first things first, let me bring the screen up. So we'll bring that up at least 0.2. Or no, I guess I already did that, but okay, so now let me angle it about that much. And if I come into here, okay, yeah. All right, so now let me see. All right. That's all backwards again. All right. So that would be an extra challenge that nobody wants. And actually it occurs to me, I probably should have typed these in QWERTY. Oh, that's interesting. I never noticed that white space just gets ignored on label 3Ds. That's kind of interesting. Okay. So I did some testing yesterday and I found that, and let me actually bring up the, all right. So when I was trying to determine the best resolution, okay, yeah, here we go. Here is the list of what is visible. So the smallest, oh, most readable. Okay, so 0.01 at 32px. Let's start with that and see where that gets me. So 0.01 at size 32. And it occurs to me I'm going to need to bring over the font because this was at, yeah, okay, it's already, all right, let me copy over the font from the other project. It's just Kenny Mini. And we'll bring that over to resources, make a new fonts folder. All right, so now I can select that. Wait, really? That's 32 at 0. Okay, that's too big. So then the next thing I had was 16px at the same pixel size. Oh, and also I wanted to turn this off because I found that that does not help actually. And let me bring these down. Actually, also, let me add the numbers to that. I wish this was a... Well, you know what? Let me check. Let me see if the Kenny font has a monospaced variant. I think that would be a little bit better for this, because this is supposed to be a keyboard. Let me see here in the Kenny assets. Go down to other. Yeah, other. And yes, there is a mono version. Slightly different font, but we'll work with that. Okay, so we'll trade that out. And it's slightly bigger, but all right. That is a little bit better. And we'll just assume for the moment that there's not really any space between the keys. I'm still surprised that putting... Is there a thing in here to remove spaces? Is that what's going on? Horizontal line. Ah, yeah, okay. Trim space. Are there... Okay. Yeah, we'll just turn that off for the moment. Because I want that to go over. That to go over. That's not exactly 100% right, but... That's more close enough, I think. Okay. So white should be fine for the text. I'm not going to worry about that. All right. I guess it would be worth testing it just to see, is this even visible? Oh, okay. There's the problem. That is Z fighting really bad. Let's bring that back. All right. Let's try that again. Oh, and I see OBS's. That is really strange. It's weird that it will work for a little bit and then it will just randomly stop working for no reason. Yeah, okay, now it's working. So weird. Hopefully it gets fixed at some point. Okay, that is readable. And that's actually pretty readable too, I'd say. Although if you look up at it too far, it doesn't look right. But at least like that, that's actually not terrible. I think that would work. Okay, one thing I do see that's kind of messing with this test and I need to fix really quick is I actually want to disable collisions on this. And I want to add the collisions in manually. Because I'm actually walking up the sides of the level, which is not at all what I want. So let me just add in a static body and we'll do a collision shape. And bring that all right, and then we'll just stretch that over to there. Bring that over, bring that over. Perfect. Okay, and then we will duplicate that and bring it up for the roof. 1, 2. Okay, and duplicate that again, and we'll make this unique. And come over here and bring it down. And duplicate that again and just bring it over. All right, now for this one it's 3 wide, so I want negative 1.5, and this one 1.5. Okay, now let's test that and double check. Okay, that's working again. Okay, yeah, that's a little bit better, so you can't just walk off. Yeah, I mean, that kind of works. I do think I might need to tweak the FOV a bit, though. But that does seem to work. So if the keys work at that scale... Oh, and actually, I see that they're... I need to turn off the filtering on them again. Where's that? There it is. Okay, let me just double check that they still look fine like that. Oh. Oh yeah, that's actually much, like I said, they just look so much better that way. Okay. So CBY 8 BDJEXEA1EIWXC5 7572. Okay, that bottom row is problematic. So that's good to know. So this is about the max you can go. So 10 digits is about the maximum you could go that way. All right, that's good to know. So let's try bumping this down again. So the next smallest, or the next most readable, was at 8px. Oh, that is a huge difference. Okay. I think I need to get the text. Yeah. Okay, that's definitely a lot better. That looks a lot more reasonable, at least in terms of a minigame. You can still pretty easily select each button. Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so readability wise is fine. Just for kicks, let's go down to the next smallest size, which I had as 0.0532. 5 at 32px. Oh, that was actually bigger. 0.0516px maybe. Yeah. I think I had recorded that this was the smallest readable size. I don't think that really changed it that much, to be honest. I do like that the whole thing is now in the screen at once, though. That's good. But one thing I want to check, I think if I recall, yeah. So 0, on this is dead center in the player's vision. So I actually think I want this to be as close to 0 as possible as well. Did I actually perfectly... Oh wow, I did. I actually got that exactly to 0. That's cool. Okay, so now let me bring this up a little bit. Yeah, see, now none of them are really getting distorted when you look at them. It just seems too far away now. I don't really feel like I feel like I'm a kid trying to reach up on top of the counter. Which is not really what I want this to be. I've got to figure out a better way to do that. Okay. So I think what I need to do... You know what? I know I tried this yesterday, but I think I'm going to try bringing these smaller. So if I make that 8, if that's still readable, I might be able to bring the screen down. Yeah. Not really. It kind of readable. But you have to hold the moment you start moving the camera and the text starts aliasing, it becomes really bad. Oh, man, that would be a lot better though. This is why I'm thinking I might switch this from text to symbols. Okay, I don't suppose making this a different color would help. Actually, I think that is a little bit better. Huh. Yeah, maybe a little bit. Except now it's... You have to be really careful when you're trying to position the cursor over them, though. That's going to be problematic to select them. Okay, that might work. Whoever joined, I am currently trying to prototype out a virtual keyboard in-game and a monitor, but the game runs at PSX resolution, so like PlayStation 1, and it's a little bit challenging at the moment to try and make the text readable and selectable in 3D and not take up the entire wall. Okay, so I think that might work. Let me try dropping it down, because if I can get it a little bit closer. If I can get everything closer to the center point of the camera, I think that'll help. Yeah. Okay, let me try bumping up the pixel size of this to something in the middle. So 0.1 is too big, 0.5 is too small. Let's try 0.8 maybe, or 0.7. Bring that down just a little bit, or you know, keep that centered, and bring this back up a tiny bit. Oh yeah, okay, that's way better. Wow, that was amazing what a tiny difference made. Yeah, okay, so I feel like I can definitely hit the keys now. That's still not entirely readable. You know what, let me try for curiosity's sake. If I come in here and I change this to be linear. Oh no, I can already tell that's just gonna make that way worse. Okay, let me try angling the screen a different angle then. And I think I need to bring it out. Hopefully it's not in the door. Well, it's not horrible. I don't know. That's still not great though. Try angling it back. Okay, I think that's probably about as good as that's going to get for the moment. So that is interesting. So that tells me that this is going to need at minimum a panel about right there. The readability of the text and whether or not I keep it as text or switch it to some kind of symbol is, I think, still up for debate. I don't want to lock myself in too much because some of this may still change for gameplay reasons. But I'm thinking that's probably the best I'm going to do at the moment, is the text needs to be about that size, whether it's a symbol or what. And that's about where it needs to go, I think. More or less. So just looking at the door, I guess that's another interesting question, is how much of the door is even usable space, because the walls restrict how far over you can get by actually quite a bit. The hallway is deceptively small. And with the hallway being that small, well, yeah, I guess it is only, so it's taken up about a third of the real estate, I guess. Or, well, maybe about half of it. So the door is going to need something in the middle of it that can pop out the keyboard. And it's going to need some kind of panel about in the middle for that screen. I think that's good. So the next minigame I want to prototype is the platforming minigame. And I'm actually thinking, I used a different size screen for the platformer before. I think what I'm going to do this time is actually use this same screen. If I can reuse stuff, I will. The only problem with the platforming game is that all of the minigames are supposed to be playable by all 4 players at the same time. Now, you're probably not going to have everyone always playing all the mini games, because obviously you've got to have somebody guarding you in this game. And the problem is, if I have all 4 players standing next to each other, that might be a little bit of an issue, because the screen's over there. So I either have to make multiple smaller screens, or I need, I mean, yeah, the problem is that the button, so every player is going to need a button, or they're going to need to be able to reach a jump button. And my intent with the platforming minigame is that because it is reaction time based, I'm actually going to run it on every peer's machine. I'm not going to try and synchronize that over the network because it's, I mean, it might work to synchronize it, but when we're talking about a jump where 150 millisecond ping could cause you to miss it, it's going to make the game really easy if all the jumps are very loosely timed to account for 150 ping, which is the maximum ping I'm planning on supporting. And I'm the problem I'm seeing is that if 4 players try to stand at this door, somebody's going to be over here, somebody's going to be over here. So they're not going to be able to see the screen. So if they have a button here, or even if they have a button there that everyone can reach, they're not going to see the screen at all. And I don't want that. I don't want it to be that hard for other players. So I either have to have a longer, well, no. And the other thing too is because it is like the dinosaur game in Chrome where the player doesn't actually move across the screen. Wherever I put the player, which is probably going to be at this end of the screen, it's going to be really bad for this person. Okay, I think what I need to do is I need to go into Sprite and make a mock-up of the level, or of a platforming level, and just try and see how this is going to work. But before that, I am going to take a quick break, and I will be back in a few minutes, and we'll pick up from there. Okay. So what I need to figure out, or what I need to do, is hop over into a sprite and I'm going to make a new file. I guess the same size as this. What size even is this? 178 by, okay. 178 by 32. That is a weird resolution. Let's do 32 and what would be better for that? We'll do, let's see, 32 times what? 4 is 128 plus 32 is 160. Try 192. Just so that it's a multiple of itself. It'll make it a little bit easier, I think, for doing some of the art. And let me grab these colors. The idea is that this is supposed to be like an LCD screen, one of the green kind. Okay, so we will fill that in, and then I guess the darkest color I have here is that. Now, let's see, the smallest thing on here is 1 pixel, but I'm gonna try to avoid using a single pixel here if I can, because I think that's gonna be entirely unreadable. And since this really is meant to be an homage to the dinosaur game in Chrome, I am gonna try for this version to make that a little bit more obvious what was going on. Not gonna be cactuses and a dinosaur though, but I'm not gonna use the Kenny sprites for this. Let me grab one of these. I guess there are only 2 shades of green. That's interesting. Okay, now what is that? See, yeah, I think this is part of why it's unreadable, is I'm not even sure what that is in game. Like, I think that's supposed to be a J, but why is the dot on it like that? That doesn't look right. I think this was just a really bad font to use for this, but whatever. Okay, so I'll grab that. I think I'm also going to go ahead and switch this over into indexed mode. And okay. Let's see, first and foremost, how am I going to do, call this the floor. Okay, what kind of obstacle is there going to be? I don't really know lore-wise what the... well, really, I don't think there is actually much lore to the mini-games. They're kind of just deliberately random. But this is meant to be a very dark, horror-themed game. But I also want these mini-games to be a little bit of comedic relief. So what am I going to pick that's not, you know, lol random, but, you know, at least break up the horror a little bit is what I'm looking for. I could do like a track. Oh, it occurs to me. Am I even... Yes, okay. Mild panic that I wasn't streaming the right app. I could do like a track race kind of thing where you're jumping over actually hurdles, I guess. That's interesting. Spikes are usually a good one because the only problem with spikes is I think they're gonna look, well, you know what, let me try it. You know what, let me not make assumptions here. Let me see what happens if I draw a spike. Why is, oh, it's set to the wrong color. Wait, why does that, oh, I didn't know it did that. That's interesting. Okay, let me resample this. No, that's a different color. Why is that? Okay, there we go. One thing I was thinking of doing as well is if the minigame is meant to have all of the players playing it at the same time, I was contemplating having, because every player has a color assigned to them based on the order they join the game, or I might allow customization, but having the player's color be represented, which I could do, it obviously it breaks the illusion of it being an LCD, a liquid crystal display, but I might go that route because I do want, I think if because I'm going to be running it on every peer, if I only show one player, I think that's going to be very confusing. If you're only seeing yourself, you're going to run into the same issue that people playing split screen have, where you don't realize that what you're looking at is you. So I could do that. I'm also not actually sure though, because if I do multiple players, if they're all stacked up together, that's not going to look right. Unless, you know what? Okay, there's an interesting idea. Let me just pick a few random colors here. We'll do like a red. We'll do a blue. We'll do a green. And we'll do some kind of yellow. Yeah. Actually, yellow is probably a bad idea. We'll do purple. Okay, so let's just say that the characters are like... really tiny Among Us. So we'll do something... Alright, we'll do that. We'll just draw a couple more. Obviously, these are not going to be the final thing, but I guess they could be, but I like to do something a little bit better than that. Okay, so what I'm thinking is I could possibly do... Yeah, see, already I kind of see the problem with that. Yeah, that isn't very clear just looking at it. I think I could probably pull that one down another one. That could probably go up another one. Yeah, I think the problem is to make that work, No, I don't think that's gonna work. Yeah, you'd have to do that, I think. Which I guess I could do. The only problem I have here is you run into some perspective issues. So as the obstacle comes across the screen, we'll just say is it this one? Oh. Okay. Merge those. Do another layer. Um, yeah, see, this is exactly what I was worried about. Okay, I think that works. So that would have to be the obstacle. So you have that moving across the screen. I don't know. Because the other thing is that's gonna, I guess it works. Let me see if I take that and I flip it around. No, flipping it doesn't help. I guess I could do a pit. That could work. Okay, so if we do that, let me come here and edit the floor. Also occurs to me that needs to be a different layer, so let me grab these two. The heck? Why is it grabbing everything? Well, that's weird. I didn't think it would do that. Okay, well, that's not very helpful. You tell I don't use a sprite enough to Alright, we'll just do this the hard way and manually delete everything in the middle. Call that the track. And then we'll just come back here. We'll nuke all that out. And then we will just fill it in with the green. Call that a pit. And okay, so we've got the players there. Let me edit this again. We'll bring this down just a little bit so it's consistent with how the last player is. Okay, there we go. Lock that, come back to the pit. So I guess I'm saying that this would just be that color. I'm not actually sure how to draw a pit that's been inverted in color. I guess so if we assume that the light source is coming from this way, it would be darker there. Okay, well, I'm not going to agonize over the specifics of the art, but okay. So if we say that that's how this is intended to work, and it's actually a pit that you're jumping over, I think for gameplay reasons, this needs to be a little bit wider. Try that. Okay. So we've got a pit that you have to jump over. And I'll figure out the specifics of how exactly that's supposed to work later. But let me copy a few of these. That could work. So each player is staggered. Yeah, I think that could work. And looking at it from back here, I'm kind of seeing... Well, actually, let me try something. I'm curious. So if I come here to the track, what if I recolor the track to this dark green? And then I recolor the pits to be completely black. And actually something else I could do. I kind of like how this looks from a distance. It's almost like you're walking on a platform. I like that. That's starting to look kind of what I want. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but it occurs to me part of the reason this maybe looks weird is because the pit just ends at the side of the screen. Okay, and does that help? Kind of. I think the perspective might be wrong. Yeah. I think actually what I should have done is just gone straight down. Yeah, it looks like that would have been better. And I actually think that right here, you just want that to be solid. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think that's starting to look better. Yeah, okay. Again, not perfect, but... And then if I bring that down... Yeah, it's not perfect, but... I think that's definitely closer to what I want. So let me copy that over to here. And okay, so then you also need some sort of finish line, which I guess the easiest way to do that would just be to do a checkerboard pattern on the ground. I should also not do that on the pit layer. I'll just copy this angle. And we'll delete that stuff out. All right, perfect. Now, I think I'm gonna do double up on the checkerboards. So I guess I'll do that, and then this one will be that. Okay. Yeah. That's kind of interesting. I think I like that. Now in the prototype, I used a door. And it was supposed to be that you were getting to the door to unlock the door in real life. I think I like this more though, because one thing I noticed is that the testers kept trying to jump over the door, which I thought was kind of funny. I think I like this idea a little bit more. I think it's clearer what's going on. And I've also got room, actually quite a bit of room up here at the top. So if I wanted to type some text, yeah, I've got quite a bit of room. So I could actually write some instructions up here at the top. So if I wanted to say, press the button to jump or something, I can rename that. I think that could work. And then animating the characters, I guess all I would have to do is, I mean, if they're really going to be this small, I could definitely make them a little bit bigger. I could make the whole track a little bit bigger. So I could probably make each one of them maybe 1 pixel larger. But I guess before I go on too far with that, let me save this as the actually I'm gonna make, well, I'll just save it as a PNG for now, and I'll just leave the file open. We'll call this platforming challenge, or runner challenge. Okay, I'm not gonna bother saving that one. Oh, you know what? I did forget I need this. Okay, we'll have to go back to the text minigame, because this is pretty important. Because in prototyping, I found that without that, it's really difficult to know how many characters you're supposed to be typing. But, okay, we'll go back to Godot real quick, and we'll at least start this. So we'll do another scene. Actually, one thing I'm going to do, just for my own sake, is stretch that back a bit so it actually goes through the wall. Wait, what? Why did that? Oh, I really don't like the way CSGs work in Godot. Okay, I knew there was going to be a mistake if I did it that way. We'll call that the bezel. And that is at 0.221. Probably a smarter way to copy these transforms, but I will just do it like this. There's only 3 of them, it's fine. So I should be able to zero that out. Perfect. And then this can go on top. All right, perfect. Does this have any? Not really. That should be fine. Okay. And we'll call that the keyboard. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and duplicate that. We'll make the text white. And I need 20 of these. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. Yeah, so realistically, I guess there does need to be a second monitor. Or, you know what I might have to do is make the text and this on the same monitor. Okay. Why is that not centered? What the heck? Oh, that's weird. Is the bezel itself not centered? No, there's no offsets on the X. What about on this? No. Well, that's weird. Huh. Must have to do with the spacing of the font. All right, well, I'm not gonna worry too much about that. Let me just take a look at this. I'm sure this is probably capture's broken again. Yeah, okay. Fix that. All right. Yeah, okay, that is readable that way. I mean, it looks like there probably is room to put it on the same screen. So then let me try taking this. I mean, yeah, there's definitely room to fit it on that screen. So if I say there's just one central monitor, that would probably work. Okay, that got bigger. What the heck? Is there... Oh, that's so strange. Now it's even bigger than it was. Why is the text doing that? Hmm. Let me come over to here and let me copy this darker color. And now let me set the text color to that. And let me move it up a little bit. How much smaller would I need to make that to fit? Quite a bit smaller. Okay, but it looks like there is enough room on the same monitor to make that work. So that should be fine. So I don't need to worry about that. So let me do a new scene. And we'll call this one the platformer minigame. And we'll just copy this whole monitor. And we'll change out the sprite. Or I guess runner minigame would be. Okay. All right, so that should be better. Oh, what the heck? Oh, you know what? I bet I know what's happening there. I always forget that Godot does this. I'm guessing that that has to do with the compression. Yep, sure enough it did. That's why this other one looked weird too. Oh, no, actually that didn't completely fix the other one. All right, well, whatever. Okay, at least this one looks right now. So we'll save this and to a new folder. And then over here, we will instantiate a new minigame. We'll do that. I would say that does look nice on the door. I think I like this direction of having it be a pit. The only thing I'm worried about is the gameplay of whether or not, because every player is going to have to jump. I don't know if the player at the back is going to wait to jump or if they're going to delay. That's the one thing I'm worried about because of the perspective. Or sorry, the player, because I'm worried that they're going to see the other players jump and people are going to instinctively jump at the same time. So I may need to make the timings just loose enough so that if you jump when you're red, well, I guess theoretically they should all jump at the same time anyway, shouldn't they? So actually, I guess what I need to compensate for isn't players jumping. It's probably players jumping late is the bigger issue. Okay, well, whatever. So now let's first see, is this even viewable in game? And is OBS? Yeah, okay, OBS capturing. All right. Okay, see, here's the problem with this one. Yeah, if you're standing over here, you cannot read that at all. If you're right in the center, you're fine. I don't love that. And like the bigger issue, I think, is the button has to be somewhere near the game. And ideally the button needs to be in the center of the game or it needs to be like over here. But if every player, you know, I can't have players doing this to click the button. That's not going to work. I did kind of think about the idea of the players tapping the screen, So maybe they press enter on the screen to jump. So like you're interacting with the screen itself. But yeah, you can't interact with it from this side. It's completely unreadable. Okay, that one's going to be interesting. I'm going to have to figure something out for that because the players do collide with each other, which is something I am doing intentionally. Because I want there to be coordination between the players, that you're not just getting in each other's way. Now, it may be more of a soft collision where you technically push the other player, or you just get pushed away from them versus completely blocking. But even still, I can't have everyone standing like in the exact same point. I don't know. Even if you're in the center, this is kind of problematic because if you tilt the camera even a little bit, you suddenly can't see. I mean, I could move the players to the center of the screen, but again, that's only going to help the person in the middle. That's not necessarily going to help everyone else. So my thought is I either need multiple screens. So like one small screen here, a small screen here, here, and here. And then each one of them is... I do like the idea of this one being like a touch screen, because I think having a separate button is going to be distracting. Unless the button is literally right here, it's going to be hard to pay attention. So I think that's going to be the right way to do this, is to do that. Okay. It's really funny how bad that looks from a distance. Okay. So I either need multiple small screens, or maybe make this one bigger and move them to the center, because this is just not going to work for multiple players. So that tells me that the door is going to be somewhat interesting, because if it needs... I'm honestly leaning away from the idea of the door having panels that open up. The problem I see, I like the idea that there are multiple screens and keyboards and things that can all pop out of different ports on the door, and they're reused for different mini games. And you know, maybe sometimes the keyboard will pop out and have a full set of keys, sometimes it only has one button, whatever, but it would come out of the same port or something. The problem is, and this is exactly what I was worried about, that some mini games are just not going to really work in that model. I can't think of a way to make this one work with one screen in the center, because it's going to be unreadable unless I make the screen way bigger. And if I do that, I could do that, but then that kind of screws with the text mini game, because when you make the screen that much bigger, you lose real estate for the keyboard. So what I'm inclined to do is actually, for all the mini games, actually have the door open and there is something behind the door. Because the other thing I've been thinking about is the fact that it wouldn't be impossible, but it would be annoying to have to code a system where the mini game has to declare which panels on the door it uses and have the door synchronize all the different input components and put all the mini game's parts where they need to go so that it can animate the door panels opening. You know, that it's not the end of the world kind of thing, but it would be annoying and tedious to code. I'm kind of leaning towards the idea that the door actually just opens partially for every mini game, and the mini game just declares how the door opens, and then the entire mini game is just a thing that spawns behind the door and pops out. Maybe so, maybe a screen, the door opens and a screen pops out, or the door opens and like 4 small screens pop out. Because one thing I kind of like the idea of is, what if that like 4 little computer monitors popped out because that also plays into some of the creepiness of the game, that you don't exactly know what's behind the door at any given time. And that's kind of an interesting idea, that maybe the only thing I don't like is that it makes the door feel less like it's playing an active role in the situation. And I almost want the door to feel like a character that you're fighting, like it's an enemy itself. And when all the door does is just open, I think it makes it feel like the mini game is the enemy, not the door. And I want the door to feel like a thing that's alive, like it's unpredictable. About time for me to wrap up streaming here today anyways, but I'm going to think on this some more, because this is, I think this is good to be thinking about this now, because this is something that's going to play a major role in the game. And I don't necessarily like the direction that's going to lean. But if that's not what I'm going to do, I'm going to have to come up with a better way of handling this minigame in particular. So, I am going to go ahead and call it here for today. If anyone's still here, thanks for watching. And if not, thanks for watching the VOD. I'll see you next time. Bye.